Hey guys, I'm Becky from Book Bite Reviews, and today we're talking about all the books that I read in June. In June, I technically read 7 books, but I really only consider 5 of them because 2 of them I finished on the first day of June, so I don't really count them, but we're going to talk about them because they weren't in last month's wrap-up. But I mean, like, really for the month, I only was able to read 5. I normally also do not use these videos to compare what was on my TBR versus what I actually read, but there were 2 very popular books on my TBR that I will go ahead and tell you are not going to be in this video besides this little clip because I did not read them. Those books were Illuminae. I decided just to not even start it at all. It just isn't any interest of mine. I was only going to read it just because it's always been suggested that I do because everyone loves it and you should try it out at least once. But I've decided to just say forget it. I didn't even start it. It's been returned to the library. It's out. The other book was 6 of Crows. I did start this book. I got like 30 pages into it. And like I expected, it just isn't the book for me. I do think that I would have ended up really loving the romance that's in it, and that's what I hear so many people talking about when it comes to this book is the epic romance. Unfortunately, I didn't get far enough to like really get into that. The little bits and pieces of romance that I did see, I did really enjoy. But as a whole, the plot of the book does not interest me, and in the 30 pages that I did read, I did not connect to a single character. So, sorry guys, but I'm not going to read that book. Not going to read the rest of the series or the previous series. It's okay. It's not for me. So now let's get into the books that I actually did read. As always, we will be going in rating order, so starting from the bottom and moving all the way up to 5 stars. Luckily, I only read 4 and 5 star books this month, so it was a really good month. So starting at the bottom, we have Forest of Ruin by Kelley Armstrong. This is the 3rd and final book in her Sea of Shadows series, and this one I have really mixed feelings on. The entire series so far has been a 3-star for me. This was the final book, and I did like this one a lot more. So I have gone ahead and made it Goodreads official that I'm giving this book 4 stars. I just have some mixed feelings. It was a 3-star for a while just because I just felt kind of salty, to be honest, with this book. Nothing much has really changed in what I didn't like in books 1 and 2. We do have these female characters, but they're not very strong. The guys take over the entire plot. They're the ones saving the girls the entire time. I don't appreciate it. This is a little bit of an older series, so I get it, but I just don't like it. I also felt like, even in this final book, there's a whole lot of nothing happening. It is a lot of telling instead of showing. I wish, like, characters would have had, like, big developmental arcs or something, but there really isn't a whole lot of change from book 1 to book 3. Not a lot happens. That's why I haven't really liked the series. It's enjoyable. I've read them from start to finish, but it just wasn't amazing. I did like this book a lot more. There is a pretty epic ending that happens, but they ruined it. I really loved this book. At the end, I was hooked. I couldn't stop listening to it. I needed to know what was going to happen. And then something really big happens, and I was just like over the moon about it. I was like, yes, this is what this entire series has been needing. And then they cheapened it by reversing what happens. And that's why I'm so salty about it, because I really thought this book was going to be a 4-star, and then that happened, and then I was like, oh, you have ruined everything. Honestly, this book is a 3.5. I definitely like this one the best out of the series. I'm going to go ahead and just give it the 4 stars. And I'm not going to look back. I'm going to keep it at a 4-star. I think. Like, if we were in a bookstore and you're like, oh, this looks interesting, I wouldn't tell you not to read it, but I also wouldn't be like, definitely buy that. You know what I mean? Let's move on. Next up, we have Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This one is also the 3rd and final book in its series, and that series is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. Not very, but I was disappointed in how the series ends. I expected a lot more to happen in this giant chunker of a book, but the things I wanted to happen didn't happen. There was also like this crazy plot twist that happens in the last 50 pages of the book. Actually, I think it was like the last 40 pages of the book, which I felt like it was a little cheaply done. It felt like, oh yeah, I forgot to throw that in. Let me do that. But overall, this series is great. I would definitely recommend you read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. I really, really enjoyed it. It just didn't have everything that I was expecting in this last book. Yeah, I have pretty mixed feelings with this book. It is an overall 4-star. I did really enjoy it. I'm happy that I read it. I will just say that it took a while for me to get into this book. I do really, really love Laini Taylor's writing style. She writes fantastically, and that's pretty much the only reason that I kept going, and because it's the last book. Yeah, I would say this is probably my least favorite book in the series, which is terrible because it's the last book in the series, but what can you do? So it's getting a 4-star. Next was this month's book club pick, and that was The Bells by Dhonielle Clayton. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. It reminded me so very much of The Jewel by Amy Ewing, so if you have read that book and you enjoyed it like I did, you should definitely pick this one up. It has like the same kind of magic system, and like I almost feel like there's gonna be some later on book where Dhonielle writes with Amy Ewing and we find out that these people are like ancestors of each other or related, because they use like the same kind of wording for the magic system. They have a similar kind of magic, but it is very different. And the overall tone of the book, like again, we have this very beautiful book that is very, very dark inside. I will say that even though it gave me like all of the Jewel feelings, it still felt very, very original and its own standalone kind of book. Even though it really, really reminded me of the Jewel, I definitely didn't feel like it was like a copy. Like if anything, it just like fulfilled my need of more Jewel books. The only reason that this isn't getting a 5-star is because even though I understand this is the first book in the series, there was not a single plot line that gets like wrapped up in this book. Like every single small or large plot point that is introduced in this book is left on a cliffhanger by the end. There is no resolution whatsoever in this book, and it just kind of irked me. Like at the end, I was pretty disappointed that nothing was resolved. So that's why it's getting a 4 and out of 5. But overall, I did really, really enjoy it. I am pretty sure I'm going to keep going with the series. And I just really, really loved Dhonielle's writing style. It was very beautifully done, and I love how descriptive she was with everything. For me, when it comes to fantasy, I need to be able to see everything in order to understand, and she did that so very well. There was not a single thing that I could not visualize in my head. I almost felt like I was like watching a movie, and I did listen to this one on audio, and the audiobook is amazing. The narrator has an accent and it's just so beautiful, and I loved every second of listening to this audiobook. This last 4-star book is one that I really didn't expect to be in the 4-star pile, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Now, with this one, I really, really loved this book. I love so much the fairy world that we are introduced to. I love that it is dark, scary fairies like they should be. I do not like the pretty, happy, in love, no danger in sight kind of fairies that some books like to portray. I like the true, dark, demented fairies, and that is exactly what this world is like. It is very brutal, very dark, and I loved every single second of it. I will say that I really, really loved our main character, Jude. The only reason that this book is not getting a 5-star is because of the romance. I have no idea why so many people ship Clayton and Jude, but they do, and I don't get it. Like, maybe I'll get it when I read The Wicked King. I don't understand why they like each other. I hardly saw any kind of, like, sparks of interest for each other throughout this book. Like, that really wasn't the main point. But I just don't understand why people are like shipping them and over the moon about it and talking about them so much, because I don't even understand this romance. So that's the only thing that truly disappointed me about this book, was the romance. Everything else was fantastic. So maybe in the next one, I'll be like, ah, I get it now. They're perfect for each other. But right now I'm like, no, I don't even understand why they like each other. So now let's move on to our 5-star books. First up, we have the other book that I finished on June 1st, and that was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. Now, I won't go too much into this book because I do separate reading vlogs for each of the Harry Potter books as I read them for the first time, so I will go ahead and link that one up right here because it has already been put out. But again, I'm just loving my adventure of reading all the Harry Potter books. This one I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. I just loved the whole scene of Dumbledore's army against Voldemort's army. It was so fantastic. It's so much longer and so much more intense in the book, and again, I'm just so kicking myself for not reading these books sooner. They're amazing. Read Harry Potter if you haven't. If you have, read it again. It never gets old. Yeah. Now, these last 2 5-star books are ones that honestly are way, way more than 5 stars. Like, I thought Harry Potter was like more than a 5-star, but I love these books so much. They are both definitely going to be on my top 10 books of the year. They're fantastic. So we're just going to talk about them in the order that I read them, because I still don't know which one is better than the other. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Beholder by Anna Bright. With this one, I did just put up a review video where I go into everything that I loved about it, so I will link that right here. What I will say is that this book was just everything that I love in books, everything that I needed in the moment that I read it, and it was seriously just perfection. I did just find out that book 2 and the final book, it's just a duology for now, is going to come out this December. I hope that date doesn't change. I need it in my life right now. Holy crap. What I really, really loved about this book is that we have a main character who starts out having no backbone. She gets walked all over. She doesn't stand up for herself. Nobody listens to her. And by the end, she is seriously a force to be reckoned with. I just love that kind of arc, especially with a female character. At the beginning, I was like really worried that I wasn't going to end up liking this book because I have heard mixed things, but by the end, I was just so blown away by this book. I had such a book hangover after finishing this because it was just so good. We meet all these different guys who are honestly all fantastic. I have not met a guy yet that I don't like, but there is a special guy who I think she should be with. I really hope it works out, but we're going to see who else we meet in book 2. But it was just so well done. And we also have all these awesome gems throughout the book of really questioning what we value in a person and how much we value ourselves in relationships. And it was just so great. Please check out my review video to hear everything where I really go into depth about this book. But again, it was just perfection, and it's definitely going on my top 10. And now my final 5-star book, and one that just seriously blew me away. This book has gotten so much hype on BookTube, so much hype everywhere else. Everyone's reading this book and loving it, and I really expected to love it, but again, I didn't expect to love every single second, every single page. Like, I want to reread it, and I don't reread books. It was just amazing. And that book is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So like I said, everyone has been reading this. I read this for the Books with Friends book club. This was their pick this month, and I am so, so happy that I picked up this book because this was seriously everything. Like, I can't even understand how much I love this book. There was not a single thing that I did not like. There was never a cheap moment or a moment where I felt uncomfortable or a moment that I felt like I wasn't going to end up liking this book. I loved every single page, word, sentence, from page 1 to the last page. It was perfection. Not only do we have this super epic romance that I was just living for and dreaming about and thinking about all day, but we have this super funny and real and raw main character, and I just loved every second. What I was really dreading with this book is that it has long chapters. I am somebody who likes a whole bunch of short chapters. I was not looking forward to reading it. I knew that there's going to be times where I had to stop in the middle of a chapter, which I hate doing. This book is so well written that I would get to the end of a chapter and not even realize that I've been reading for that long. There are so many funny points. Like, I was literally laughing out loud while reading this book. I just could not even stop reading this book. This book is a standalone. It is an adult book. Everything else has been YA, because that's what I normally read, but I will say that I do feel this is a pretty good book to segue you into adult books. It's definitely very adult, though. We have some very detailed sex scenes in here, lots of cursing. It was just so good, you guys. The romance in it was just so pure. It's just so good. If you have thought about, like, maybe I should pick that up, I don't know, do it. This book was amazing. I'm pretty sure, like, at this moment, this is my #1 book of the year. Without thinking of what else I've read this year, this is #1. Let me think. Yeah, so far, this one is the best book of 2019. I love it. It's amazing. Go get it. I don't even know what else to say. All right, guys, that is everything that I read in the month of June. It was such an enjoyable month. I read all really good books that I'm really happy that I read, especially those last two, because those were just seriously perfection. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, you want to see more bookish content from me, please hit that subscription button. And if you want to be notified as soon as my videos go live here on YouTube, hit the notification bell. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!